All right. Hey, guys, welcome back to the Top Agent Podcast. And I am thrilled to kick off 2023 with a couple of my good friends, great buddies. And these guys are, a couple of the top in the industry for what they do. One of them is my personal mentor. The other one's a business partner, and we do lots of business together, and we do lots of videos together and lots of fun. And you've seen them on here with me before. But we're going to talk about some goals. We're going to talk about what agents can do, what mortgage professionals can do. As soon as we get back, they'll be on. Let's go. Welcome to the Top Agent Podcast, where we bring you raw and unedited content to help create and connect top agents from across the globe. I'm your host, Tom Tillier. Let's get started. All right. Jesse Dow and Fidel Gonzalez. How are you guys?
Good. How you doing, man?
I am awesome. Hey, Happy New Year.
Yeah. Happy New Year. Feel like it took forever to get here, right? Yeah. New me.
Yeah. Hey, Jesse, I appreciate you coming on this morning. Fidel and I kind of had this call scheduled, and when I heard that you could jump on, I jumped at the opportunity. I appreciate you coming on, dude.
Yeah, absolutely. We just wrapped up another training with YouTube for the network and was just finishing that. And I was sitting here and I was like, all right, I can jump on for a few minutes.
Yeah, no kidding. This is great. Hey, Jesse, let's kick off with you because I know your time is valuable and I want to be very aware of that. Let's talk about 2023. What are you seeing with the whole slew of agents that you have on your team? What are you seeing right now going into 2023 as a best practice or something that agents can do to really stand apart from the competition and what they can do to better service their clients?
Yeah. So actually I just kind of like you always turn this corner into the new year and everyone's like, oh yeah, like what's your goals? What's your this? What's your that? And I'm just like, and I never have a definitive answer because like the things I'm working on 6, 7, 8 months ago are the things that are coming to fruition today, so like, I feel like I'm on a consistent evolving world of real estate lead generation. Obviously that's like where you generate your business. So I was looking at like this morning, I was actually looking at our historical numbers in January and February. No matter what market we're in is always my two slowest months of the year, like for closing. So that means anything going into contract in December and January are closing in January and February. So, people like right now, especially in the world that I operate in, January and February are typically the two slowest months. And like people are, kind of panicking right now because of the way the market's going. And, something I do every year at this time of the year. So like when people are like, what's your goals for this year? Like right now, I'm like really focusing in on my past clients and my sphere and people that I can really impact, just making sure that all of my systems are in place because this is like the year where you can't let anything slip through the cracks. The last 2 years was just like the holy grail of real estate for people that were getting after it. I mean, you could shoot deals in your sleep with your eyes closed, and get closings. Well, this year isn't going to be the same. And I've already seen a lot of agents exit the industry. Even on my own team, I've never lost an agent in the history of my business. And this is the first time I've actually had agents leaving to go back to work full time, which is crazy to me. Because there's still deals to be had. There's still business for the people that are out there working. And we actually saw it last year too, with like the top agents doing the bulk, lifting of the deals, especially like when you see like the national average of deals going down to like less than 2 per agent. I mean, the market just got flooded with new agents. And historically, if you look at after year, typically we see like 50 to 60,000 new agents a year. Last year and the year before, we saw 75,000 new agents each year. So we saw a lot of people come into the industry. But this is like where you have to kind of go back to the basics and make sure you're dotting your I's and crossing your T's and making sure all your systems are in place because automation and systems are more important than anything else. It doesn't matter what market you're in. Like when I was back before real estate in corporate America and I worked in the brewing industry, the thing I was very fortunate with was working for 2 of the top training companies in the world and sales and marketing and training. And the one thing, like one of the companies that was like the hands down the best, they always said, when the markets are great, you sell the shit out of everything you can. Like you don't worry about the systems. You don't worry about the processes. Like you're just going pedal to the metal because those opportunities will never come back. Every day we move forward, the opportunity is gone. So if you can't get your products on the shelf today, they're not for sale. So the same thing goes with real estate. If you don't have clients in the pipeline, you're not going to have deals. So the last 2 years, it was like a free for all for sales. But now we're like into the system where the market slows down. Now it's a time that you need to make sure your systems are on point, make sure your lead generation's on point, and you're doing the activities every single day, because the last 2 years, it was so easy. And I shouldn't say it was so easy. It was just a lot easier than what like normal markets were. Right. So when you ask me what I'm doing, it's making sure that all the systems, the processes, and the things that I can control are being controlled and executed at the highest level.
Yeah, and so you and I had a discussion a couple days ago. When I need Jesse, I call him. I'm like, Jesse, dude, I need to talk to you, and let's wrap, because he's got such a mind on him, and where I think I'm good, but he's really good, and so I need to pick his brain on things. And what came out of that was, hey, let's make future calls, because we both got some out of the call, and we both realized that yes, this is the time that the really good agents really dial themselves in. Update, sharpen their saw. Their skill set's got to be on point. They just have to be better people. They have to be better agents. They have to be better. I say better people because for their sphere, for their community, for everything else, you have to be more involved. And Fidel, I want to bring you in on this, because Fidel is a loan officer. He's a mortgage broker, and he has similar things. He's feeling it too, and he has a team, just like you do, and just like I do. And we got to keep that momentum going with our team and keep everybody happy. But at the same time, we have to teach people to be better humans, be better people, and focus on how to be more helpful, and not just because I've never been in this business for the money. I mean, at the end of the day, yes, that's my livelihood, and that's how we get paid, and that's how I feed my family. But I've never been in it with commission breath or dollar signs in my eyeballs, right? I'm all about helping people first, and all of that kind of follows. So Fidel, I want to know what's going on with you in your neck of the woods, and then we'll get back to Jesse, and we'll see what Jesse's time looks like.
Honestly, guys, it comes right down to the same thing. We are in the same business, right? You guys, we're in the same circle of life of what a transaction looks like for people to achieve home ownership or do whichever it is they're doing, right? Either first time, downsize, all that good stuff, investment. We're in the same boat every time, all the time. So the same things happen on our side, right? We just went through renewals, right? We are renewal on the first of the year, right? That's just a fiscal year. That's when renewals. So one of the data points we're expecting to see right now is maybe a lot of folks didn't renew their license this year, and see what those amount of licensed loan originators are. And we have a feeling, even internally, we've lost some folks at my company. This year, mortgages moved a little bit different, right? We move at a different, sometimes it happens earlier to us than it does necessarily to the, agent and the brokerages and stuff. That happened to us. We started feeling this in probably April, right? April, May, June, we started to see things kind of really change. And we've seen that happen. So I find it, exactly as Jesse mentioned, it's interesting that he, lost agents, systems, and the last 3 years, you could walk on the street and trip over a deal, right? Have a client to help. It's not like that anymore. So if anybody got into this industry, in the last 3 years, they're on this premise that isn't really the way it works, right? Because we saw Jesse said it earlier, he put it perfectly. It wasn't that it was easy, but it was easy, right? Like it was it was interesting to see this. I thought it was really hard from our side because of the cash abundance that was in the market. For us, it could be difficult for us, right? Because of the cash abundance. And then you had all these pre-approved buyers and, these people that were wanting to buy a house and couldn't. It was rough. And I know that's the same thing for you guys as agents as well, because you had all these people that wanted to buy. They had the right motivation, were qualified, were doing everything, but it just couldn't compete in a market where everybody was tripping over you, battling each other,
What are you doing, Fidel, to keep your team motivated and to keep going into 23 to sharpen your saw and to focus on lead generation and what you're going to do to attract business? Because we're all in the same boat, right? We all want to attract business. Obviously, we want to earn a seat at the table with our friends and family, of course.
Right.
But
Yeah.
we also want to meet new people. We also want to do great for the community. We also want to do all of those things that is being as involved as we can, especially if you don't have a sphere that's local. Because I want to talk to Jesse about that here in a minute.
Mhm.
But we all moved. Actually, every one of us on this call have moved, right?
That's funny.
Jesse went from hot Arizona to cold Idaho, and Fidel and I came from cold Michigan to warm Florida, right? So now we're all sitting here going, okay, how are we going to meet and greet people? How are we going to be a pillar in the community like we may have been in our previous residence, right? How are we going to do that?
I mean, frankly, I think, it's just getting involved, getting out there. We're starting a new year. Usually, I'll speak for myself, right? Usually December, January, February are kind of slower in the mortgage world, especially when we're up in Michigan, right? People don't necessarily want to buy when there's all the snow and the weather and things of that sort. So it's natural lull. Now, we didn't experience that the last 3 years per se, right? Because it was hot. Everybody was just fighting, clubbing each other for houses, basically. So now it's just kind of getting. Jesse put it perfectly earlier. Going back to the basics, right? Because I feel like the last, say, 2020, once we got a grasp of the pandemic, right? 2021 and 2022, generally we were just running at just wildly. And now we have to have the systems in place where, or maybe make the tweaks to our systems to make sure that we are staying on top of it. Because like he said, right, there's going to be, no matter which way we want to slice it or dice it, I'm going to say that to everybody here, there's going to be less, I don't know about less business per se done. There was less business let's just say over the last 6 months of last year. There was less business out there because people started changing their behaviors, consumers changing their behaviors. Then now what we had was less business with the same amount of licensees. But as Jesse mentioned, people are exiting. So maybe we're actually going to receive some more influx of it, because the people who didn't have the right mindset or the right, systems,
leadership systems, mindset,
resilience,
cash reserves, resilience, tenacity, discipline. I mean, there's all those things that are words that we need to focus on in 2023, I think.
And it's harder for people, I think, the mentality, right? Coming from where they could go out and they could it was so easy. I'm using the air quotes because, there were some challenges with it, but there was more abundance of people wanting to make a deal. Now they don't know how to battle that against the grain, right? I think my base premise is that it's going to be based on educating folks on who should buy, who maybe isn't ready to buy, and just preparing for the future. And just kind of like Jesse mentioned earlier, right? Always be loading and educating and getting in front of consumers.
So let's talk about that a minute real quick. Jesse, I'm going to bring you on here for this. I gotta put a little plug in. I have to do it. And I don't usually do this on this channel, but this is so important. You guys, if you're an agent watching this, whether you're watching live or watching replay, and you're an agent watching this later on, and you are sitting there in a mental struggle because you're not getting the support you need. You don't have the technology you need. You don't know kind of where you're going with anything. Like you're just kind of in this hamster wheel trying to figure it out. Doing the same thing you did last year is not going to get you anywhere. You need to be with a leader. You need to be with leadership that will help you change your mindset and drive towards different opportunities for business, because it's not just going to fall in your lap. And so Fidel is a great leader for his team, and I know that for a fact. And I know Jesse is a great leader. He's my mentor, right? I go to him with video and business questions because he's the brain there. And he really has helped me tremendously. And I would like to say that I've helped a lot of people. But see, with EXP, and again, I'm just going to go there with EXP, the collaboration is really, and even with Nexa, with Fidel's company, the collaboration is really the great point of this, because I help so many people that I've helped in the industry. I help so many people, and then Jesse helps me, and people above Jesse help him, and people above Jesse help me. So that whole collaboration, you can't put a price on. And in this time, if you don't have that support or that collaboration, if you don't have that right now, you really need to consider what you're doing. And if you're going to stay in this business, or you're going to, like Jesse said, go get a full-time job, right? because
Are you
Don't go
surrounding
get
yourself with the right people, right?
I will tell you that. Don't go get a part-time job. Don't think you're going to part-time real estate and part-time Home Depot, right? It's just not going to work. Jesse, what's your take on that?
Yeah, it's funny too because I always say like full time, part time. This and that is like I've started trying to get into the habit of saying W-2 versus 1099. And because in real estate people talk about part time agents. We just had this conversation the other day, and I said I remember my first broker or my second broker actually said he goes, you have to manage your own emotions, and he's like real estate's like a roller coaster. He's like so if you go up and go down with your clients, you're going to live a horrible life. He's like you need to be that calming force. But the one thing he said that I always remembered is he said real estate is part-time all the time because like, you want this consistent schedule. Well, if you're not in a position to create a consistent schedule, you're just going to be part-timing it all the time because you're going to be on call 24/7, right? And you're going to be the pop-up agent. But, there's a couple of things actually that I like when you talk about being being around leaders and people like that, it's always important to be around people that are effective with their thoughts and the way you want to go. I've had to go outside the real estate industry to like find some people that I can align with in specific categories of my life. And one thing that's really helped me make a lot of good decisions is somebody once said to me is like, don't make decisions unless they gross you an incremental 50 grand a year. So I was like, okay, so now that like instantly changed my mindset with a lot of things. Because a lot of times I think as an agent, you want to like start doing things that might generate 1 or 2 extra deals a year. Well, let's think if you have a team, or even if you're a solo agent, 50 grand a year, you're talking an extra 5 to 8 to 10 maybe deals a year, depending on what market you're in. That's a pretty big chunk, right? So now you start taking bigger actions, and then once you figure out what those are, you got to make sure that you're not trading your lead systems for other lead systems, right? This is what happens a lot is like you're like really good at doing open houses or cold calling, and then you're like, oh, I don't like doing cold calling anymore, so now I want to start doing something else. So you stop doing the thing that was making you money and you start doing something new. So now you're just trading lead systems. The thing when you talk about hitting a rut, my first 2 years in real estate, I did 24 deals back to back, and it was 100% from cold calling and open houses. And it was like the biggest drain on my life. And I hit this patch where I just didn't want to do anything anymore. And I remember I brought on my first assistant, which is actually my business partner now, Jackson. I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, I have all these listings and now I can just sit in my house all summer and do nothing while he goes out and does everything else. And I remember it was just like the most miserable summer of my life because I was like in a pretty weird state of mind after working for 2 years in a row of just hardcore grinding 24/7. And, that's like when we started getting into the YouTube world. So when you talk about like doing things and, technology and leadership and things like that, and, you said I've moved to Idaho, but before I lived in Idaho, I actually moved to Phoenix, Arizona from Portland, Oregon, which is where I started my real estate career. So I literally, people would be like, well, that's crazy. You like move from market to market. And here's the thing is I went from Portland to Phoenix and my business doubled. And so like when you can remove some barriers from your business, and I still remember like one of my mentors, I remember it was like right when my YouTube business was starting to really take off. And I remember it was like every year we were like hitting that level. Like I remember year 1, it was 24 deals personally. Next year, 24 deals personally. Next year, same exact thing, 30 deals, but now I had 2 agents. And I remember asking my mentor, like, where's the holdup here? Like, I don't get it. You know what he said is like craziest thing ever for anybody that like is a team leader or like a big, like somebody that's a top producer, but a solo agent.
I know what you're going to say.
Like, you're the problem. And I remember like, what do you mean I'm the problem? He's like, you're the one trying to like do deals and work in the business. He's like, you're the one that's great at getting the deals. So he's like, you need to remove yourself from the equation. And that first year I did that, my business went 5X. I went from 10 to 50 million. And then the next year it went to 100 million. And so like in 2021, 100 million was great because the market was crazy. And then in 2022, our business, we sold as much business in 2022 as we did in 2021, like to the deal. And so for me, that was a huge win. But so now I'm in, so I was never actually even licensed in Arizona. I moved down there. I ran my teams from Arizona, and I personally didn't get my license for 2 reasons. One is the test down there is insane. So they have what they call professional licensing reciprocity, which isn't real estate reciprocity. It's for any professional licensing. But what they do is they take the state test and the federal test and they blend it into one test, and it's 300 questions. And if you don't pass it in the 3 tries, they make you go back to school. So I tried it once and I failed. And I said, screw this. This is insane. And then I was like, I think I'm going to hold myself up if I start doing a couple deals. Right. So I was like, I'm just going to try to stay at a production down here. And I did that. And then when I went to Idaho, it was funny. So I looked at their broker reciprocity up here, and they have true reciprocity in Idaho. And I literally I read the book. It was 25 questions on the test. I took the test and I got my license like in one day. And so I just got my license to buy a house. But then this is what happens. Then like I get a call, hey, I have this listing. And then you're looking at the check, oh, 30 grand up here. Everything's 6%. Then I'm like, oh, I can make 30 grand by selling one house. So then you're like, oh, I'll take the listing, And then you remind yourself, after like not selling real estate for a couple of years, you remind yourself of like why not getting held up on the transactions can like really bog you down. But I've been fortunate enough to be at a production for so long that I have like all the teams on automation. And so, it didn't really distract me, except for it took a ton of time away from me. And then it just reminded me of why I don't like doing that stuff. So
yeah, automation systems team, if you're not there, if you're too busy, trying to skin the cat,
but
right? Who's going to catch the cat?
So the one thing I would say too is like, because a lot of agents, actually, like one of my top videos on one of my YouTube channels is actually like how to start a new real estate business in a new market. Because like you said, it's like getting out and connecting. I completely agree with that. You have to like rebuild your whole base again, especially if you're a real heavy sphere-based agent. That could be pretty detrimental to your business. But for me, like we've built all of our systems on 100% inbound marketing. So for me to like move to a new city, to me, it doesn't seem like it seems like a no-brainer to like get business going again. So for me, it's all, I want to go and hunt where the game is searching. So like even Gary Keller said this a couple of months ago on Inman, his live, he's like, if I was an agent in today's market, I would be living at the top of the funnel. So like, this is like going into another world of social media chat for a second. But, when you look at consumers on social media, consumers are literally in two buckets. They're in unconsiderate phase of real estate purchase and sale, and then they're in consideration of purchase and sell. So you have two buckets. 95% of your audience does not care about real estate. Only 5% are, and they are in the consideration phase. Most 50% or more are already working with an agent or have one in mind. So your whole goal as a real estate agent is one, is to stay top of mind with your agents, or two, it's to bridge that gap between 95% of unconsiderate into the considerate. And how can you get as close to that top of the 95% so that you're the first agent that they find when they drop down in that bucket, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's what we've done through YouTube. We know that even YouTube is now the number one used tool for home purchasers when looking to make a purchase decision. And it's not what people think. It's not open houses. It's not listing videos. It's not like the shit that everyone's told to put on social media. There's a lot of things that people look up for. I mean, Tom, now, and you too, Fidel, after relocating, like what the true mindset is of a consumer relocating. All you're trying to do is figure out the areas you want to live in and like why this area makes sense, why this area makes sense, why this area doesn't make sense. And then there's someone that you really related to while you're watching content. You're like, if they're like, oh, I'm an agent, you're like, shoot, that's the person I can call. They can help me find a house. Yeah.
That's really interesting because, my run with YouTube for a long time in Detroit, I was doing this whole produce thing with restaurants and
we've all done it, dude. I spent over $100,000 doing that.
Oh, geez, dude. But then you have a random one like my Lakeland video where'd that come from? Right. Like, movement. So, but people want that information. And now what I'm noticing, all the comments, people want the information on the schools. So now it's time to go make a school video because, hey, we got to get the information out there. So right. It's really good. Hey, Jesse, dude, I appreciate you jumping on. You spent more time with us than I thought you would have today.
Oh yeah.
And we'll have you on again because I want to get into some tools and some of your systems. We'll have you back on the podcast for sure.
Cool.
Fidel and I will kind of wrap it up, but I appreciate it. Happy New Year.
And really enlightened to hear your perspective of it too. It's always kind of, one of the things that I think is really important for every agent, loan officer, listen, will watch this, is you got to surround yourself with people like this, right? Who have that mindset. And if you're not at that right place, connect. This is what's beautiful about the day and age we live in right now. We have so much access to information. There's no reason we shouldn't succeed, right? Because we have an abundance of access and it's right in our dang hands more than ever. Surround yourself, get the YouTube channels of the people that are succeeding, and not necessarily that you copy them, right? You get a sense of what they're doing, but make it your own, right? Because that's what's important. It's that brand that you how you carry yourself. So appreciate you coming on and giving us some time here, man. It was very, very cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna kick you off, Jesse, so we can talk about you.
He doesn't like you because he doesn't like you either because you have hair like me, and he kind of gets sensitive about that. That's
Hey,
it.
you know what? I'm gonna put hair where I can't grow hair. All right.
Cool. Well, you guys, thanks a lot. We'll see you on the next one.
All right, brother.
All right.
Thanks, Jesse.
Take care, Jesse.
See ya. Oh boy, man. I'm telling you, that guy, he's made a big impact on my business and a big impact on my career, and it's helping me help others, right? So his leadership is helping me define my leadership to help others
Exactly.
in their business. And I know a lot of things that he doesn't. He knows a lot of things that I don't. Like I'm database heavy, where living in a world of CRM and living in a world of database management my whole entire professional career.
Mm-hmm.
I help our upline and our downline, so to speak, with that, right? With helping with their database, because he doesn't do that. But
I think it's finding people who complement each other well.
and that's what it is. And that's what it is. He's made me a better agent, and hopefully some things that I've given him have made him better. And that's what it's all about with our system, with our model. That's where we're at. So
100%. The same thing. Same thing with us. It's the same exact way. Like it's in fact, there's a guy, James Yancey, he's out of Maryland. He's in Longboat Key. We're meeting them up, like it's like family, even though we're like just couldn't be further away from each other. We're like brothers, right? So like, hey, I'm in town. Like, you want to get together? Absolutely. Like, it's just you surround yourself with the people who have the entrepreneur mindset, and I think that's what's important to succeed in this market. Is you have to have an entrepreneur mindset. If you're here it's a job to sell real estate or do mortgages, it's not. You will always ride that, as Jesse mentioned, those ebbs and those flows, and that can wreck your mindset, your pocketbook. Because what's that thing that they say, that lifestyle creep? As you're starting to make money, you're making money, and you're like, oh, get the house, get the car, and then the business comes down. You're like, oh, how do I do this? And it stresses you out, and the stress is a killer to what you have to do. And it's just a never-ending circle if you don't do it the right way. And systems are huge in today's day and age, obviously.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate to have put myself in a position where I finally, after many years, kind of woke up to what I want out of life. With all the money in the world, okay, if you have all the money in the world, what do you want out of life? And once you identify that and establish that in your mind, in your brain, in your heart, and you realize that the material things aren't as important. I still love my material things. Don't get me wrong. I love them.
You said something earlier, right? You don't do this for the money. And I said this to one of my guys, Phil Mancuso. He's one of our partners in Atlanta, out of Atlanta. He's in Florida for the EPM, Equity Prime Mortgage, one of our partners in business, right? He said this one, because I said that to him, and he stopped me and he corrected me. He's like, yes, we do. This is what we do for money. But he's like, what you're looking at is long money. Right? Meaning it's not about the short-term rush. It's about creating and adding value to the world that it just comes to you because you give it, right? So you will earn everything that you get, in some way, fashion, or the other. If you want to do the right career path and business path is, it doesn't mean that you're going to be $100 million producer day one. Usually if that does happen, there might be something weird. You know what I mean? Because it's a slow build up to get to where you're going, and it takes those lessons to get there. So he's like, it is obviously, we have to maintain and keep our family and feed our family, and we have big dreams, and we get into this business because it's 24. Like, the reason there is money in this too, everybody's like, oh, they make a lot of money. We're 24/7, right? Like it's we don't have vacation time per se, because when we're on vacation, I think you put in a video or the other day, right? Like, when you're on the beach, when we're like taking that time off with the family, somewhere in the back of our brain, we're saying, oh, we're not doing those income creating,
it's so
things.
hard to shut it off.
It's incredibly hard. So that's why it's a high reward, high stress, definitely extreme availability. And that's just how it works, right? So, but you have to build it the right way.
That's interesting you say that. So yes, I stand corrected. It is about the money, right? At the end of the day, but I'm going to take it a step further. I'm going to take it a step further. So many people I know have had parents that get sick, successful people, right? Without their success, their parents wouldn't have been able to get better. Okay. Because the funding, people I know, Sean Gerald, a buddy of mine in North Carolina, a successful agent. I think he just bought his mom a new car for Christmas.
Money's a tool, right? It's a tool.
Money's a tool.
Right?
That's all I mean. What I mean is, like you said, it's not the quick hit. It's not the quick dopamine fix. Oh my gosh, I just got paid on a deal. It's nothing to do with that. It's everything to do with how can I be a pillar? How can I help people? Because that will come. And then I can turn that into helping people. Yeah. Right. And when I say helping people, of course it's family first. Of course it's family first.
You never know. Like even empowering somebody to become a homeowner that never thought they could. Now they've changed generationally, right? Now their kids will see, hey, owning a home rather than renting.
No, that's true too. That's
and setting up that mindset on that financial plan. So like what we want to try to do is say, hey, we're not just here for this purchase. If you're a first time home buyer and you're in your 20s, we're going to do the next 5. And it could be even going out of state because as your career blossoms or, kids, that, the other. What we want to be is, at the end of the day, is relational, right? We're taking care of people. We're helping them. We're advising them. We're educating them to help make the best decision in their life. And that's what it's about. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. And then being able to provide, right? And being a provider and being able to, give people the lives that they want, be able to be there if a sibling, a parent, a
needs help,
child needs help, a business partner, anybody, you just want to be better humans, period. And to do that in 2023, you need to, like Jesse said, have systems, processes, guidance, leadership, discipline, tenacity, whatever it is. You need all of those things. And
some. It's a noisy world. And some. It's a noisy world, right? Noisy. Like everywhere you go, it's just like bah bah bah, ads in our face everywhere we go, right? So it definitely takes that organizational structure more so than ever, especially as we enter this changing tide.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's wrap it up. We'll get back on here and do this one again, but I appreciate you jumping on the podcast.
Absolutely.
Let me get over to this here real quick, but in the meantime, let's cut out and we'll see you guys next time. Welcome to the Top Agent Podcast, where we bring you raw. That's the wrong sound clip, so we're going to boogie on this one. See ya. Connect. Top